Welcome to Chantlex Multimedia, streaming live to your device all the way from Brisbane. And hey, it's the weekend. We're looking forward to the weekend. That's so much on in the weekend. We will talk about all that later on. But in today's weekend special, we will look at the coronavirus and the vaccine update. Then we will go on a colorful Holi world tour. We will look at how Holi is celebrated in different parts of the world. We'll also bring to you messages from the Prime Minister on Holi. And of course, I will finish up with a very special segment. Many people have asked me, especially, many of our Australian friends that, especially they ask Usha that, you always look good in a saree. How long does it take to put on a saree and how to put on a saree? Today, we'll show you, not me personally, is how you can put on a saree in less than 5 minutes. Yes, you heard that right. Putting on a saree in less than 5 minutes. That's towards the end of the segment today. So that's a lot that we need to get through. So let's get on with the show.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Fernandez. Australia's latest run of no community transmissions of the virus has come to an end after one case of COVID-19 was reported in Queensland. Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk says a 26-year-old man from Stafford on Brisbane's north side has been infectious and in the community since last Friday. But once he developed symptoms on Monday, he stayed home. From today, a number of facilities in Brisbane and the Moreton Bay Shire will be locked down to protect vulnerable people.
Our aged care, our hospitals, our prisons, people caring for people with a disability will be closed to visitors, but this will be confined to the Brisbane City Council areas and to Moreton. So just the Brisbane City Council areas and Moreton. So these are sensible precautions to look after our most vulnerable.
Meanwhile, a new coronavirus variant that's being called a double mutant strain has emerged in India. It's been found in hundreds of test results there and coincides with India's biggest one-day rise in COVID cases so far this year. Our correspondent James Oaten joins us now from Delhi. James, just how far has this new variant spread?
Well, it certainly sounds scary when you hear the phrase double mutant variant, but it's worth keeping in perspective that this is one of thousands of variants that have been detected in India. The government is pretty adamant that this is not responsible for the latest surge. In fact, they say none of the variants are responsible for the latest surge. They're really blaming poor behaviour. People who have just got fed up with the pandemic or think it's over, they've been taking their masks off, they've been gathering in crowds, and the virus spreads, regardless of which variant we're talking about. But there is some mixed messaging about how much the variants are to blame. In Punjab, for instance, which is a state just north of Delhi, around 80% of the new cases there are from the UK variant. Now, they are mostly return travellers, but of course we know the UK variant spreads quite quickly. Across India, though, India's monitoring around 700 variants of concern. The UK variant only accounts for around 700 cases of around 10,000 samples. So they're adamant that right now the variants aren't to blame. This is really lax behaviour and people need to get back to COVID-safe protocols.
James, the Indian government's already under a huge amount of pressure. The daily caseload is rising, the health system's under immense pressure, and now this. How is it responding?
Well, it's responding by putting a halt on the exports of the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is made here in India. It says that's a temporary move. It's not a permanent move, but it's just really recalibrating its vaccination program. As of next month, anyone over 45 will be able to get the jab. India's vaccine program is really, it's not about herd immunity, it's about saving lives, and most of the deaths here are people over 45. The latest surge isn't as deadly as the one we witnessed last year, and virologists say that's pretty common. As the virus mutates and changes, it may become more virulent but less lethal. But it's still early days. It usually takes 3, 4, 6 weeks for the mortality rate to kind of catch catch up with the surge in cases. So still far too early to say, but at the moment it does look like the mortality rate is around, for instance, like about a third of what it was when we had 50,000 cases last year. But, of course, not every city is faring the same. In Nagpur, which is in Maharashtra, their hospitals are overwhelmed and people there are struggling to find beds, putting calls out on social media, asking for help. These are the types of scenes we saw during the early weeks of the pandemic in Mumbai last year. It's now playing out in other cities that weren't as badly hit.
James Oaten in Delhi. James, thank you. Norman Swan is with us now. Norman, just how much of a danger does this new double mutant strain? I mean, it sounds terribly worrying, but it's not a scientific term either, is it?
No, that's right. It's really scary. No, so James is spot on there. It's human behaviour here. So human behaviour trumps everything. And that's what's happening in India, and it's what's happening in Europe. So you change your behaviour, then that trumps the virus every time. However, when you do get a virus that's more transmissible, that can muscle the other viruses out and take over, as it has done in Britain. So there is some indication in Britain that there was a surge, and that the B117 was partly responsible for the surge in Britain. But if human behaviour, if you're not locking down, you're not doing it properly, then the old virus will spread as well. The risk with this virus is that it's got the mutation that could be a vaccine escape. So in other words, this could be a vaccine-resistant virus, but that's yet to be seen. Now, and you and I have spoken about this before, vaccine-resistant strains are going to emerge probably more from low-income countries where there's a lower rate of vaccination and there's more chance for the virus to escape. But it could happen anywhere.
Do we know if that's going to undermine the current vaccination drive, particularly in India?
So it's all just too early to say. The vaccination drive is about turning COVID into the common cold. And the current vaccines will do that and do it very well. And there's no evidence that with the mutations that we've seen around that are surviving, such as the B117, or the South African one, there's a little bit of question mark over whether or not Astra protects against severe disease with the South African one. But if the aim here is to stop hospitals being overwhelmed in Maharashtra province, or that's Maharashtra state or something like that, they're all going to do it.
AstraZeneca has been under more pressure in this past week with questions about whether it used outdated and potentially misleading data on its vaccine program. This is the vaccine, of course, that's being used widely across Australia. How concerned are you about these allegations?
Well, I'm not concerned in terms of the Australian situation. We're using it 12 weeks apart. The data suggests that on average, or most likely, it's about an 80% effectiveness when you give the doses 12 weeks apart. It's not so much that it undermines the Australian approval data. It's more really just questioning the bona fides of the company and the trustworthiness of the company. It's just silly to have gone ahead of the monitoring committee. Apparently the monitoring committee was questioning them about which data they were using. It turns out that it went from 79% to 76%. We're still to see the response of the independent monitoring committee. So it's not a big difference, but it just raises more trustworthy issues which are not merited. It's a reasonably good vaccine. There are problems with it, but there's a reasonably good vaccine. It's the one we have. And the companies just had missteps one after the other.
But why? I mean, trust is so important right now. Why would it take those missteps when clearly they are, to a degree, so avoidable?
You're asking me? I mean, really, that's the question for the company. I mean, their trial was a dog's breakfast. Their trial was not well organised. It changed as it went along. There were new criteria. People were brought in late. In some ways, it was lucky they were, because that's how we know that 12 weeks is a better vaccination programme. But it's not been a well-organised, either communication-wise or in terms of the clinical trials.
Speaking of which, this clotting issue, it was off again, on again in Europe. Now it's back on again?
Well, it's not about back on again. It hasn't disappeared. And despite the European Medicines Agency saying the overall risk of clotting doesn't go up, which is absolutely true, there is this issue of a rare clotting defect, which is where women, probably more women than men, under 55, get a cerebral vein sinus thrombosis. So that's a thrombosis in the veins of the brain, which can cause a stroke. And it's very unusual with low platelet counts. The platelets are needed for blood to clot. and you'd think you need a lot of platelets to clot, but this is where you get low platelets. It's a complicated story involving antibodies, and the Germans have issued clinical guidance on this. The British Society of Haematology has just issued clinical guidance on this, so they're not putting their heads in the sand, and they're telling doctors what to look for, what tests to do, how to exclude it, how to bring it in. We've not done that. All we've done in Australia is we've said, oh, if somebody's got a history of cerebral venous sinus thrombosis or a particularly unusual form of clotting problem when you've been given an anticoagulant called heparin, then don't give the vaccine. And they've just said both vaccines, but there's no evidence this is a problem with Pfizer. So we're just a little bit behind the 8 ball here. This is not a common problem. It's a rare problem, if indeed it's related at all, and we should just be tackling it head on. And for some reason, we're not.
And we should be tackling it head on, as he mentioned, and of course we'll leave that report there. And it is good to see that they are on top of things, but there are many things which are, as we reckon, the Australian way of doing things. So that's the way we do things, as they say in Australia. Well, right now here's a message from Prime Minister, first of all, to the Jewish community.
Passover is a timeless story that has inspired generations of Jewish people around the world. Last year, so many families across Australia, including my own, had empty seats at the Seder table as we all observed the restrictions required to keep us safe. I think I speak for the community when I say we are all very much looking forward to sitting down at the Seder table this year, reconnecting with the family, reading the Haggadah, singing songs like Dayenu, and eating all the traditional Pesach food like matzah, or probably too much of it. On Pesach, we commemorate the exodus from Egypt and the Jewish nation's journey towards freedom and choosing life.
I take a lot of strength from the stories of the Jewish people. As you know, Josh, it's an important part of my faith as well. And I take enormous strength from that. And that's what we've been doing as a country as well, I think. And drawing strength from the things that inspire us. And that's what's enabled us to save lives and to save livelihoods over what's been a very difficult period. And in so doing, we rose to the challenge of our time, and we did it in such a uniquely Australian way. That's what I'm really proud of. It's not just that we've got through this, it's we've got through it our way, on our values and how we live life here in Australia. So this year's Passover reflection is on an ancient path that has been trodden again by us now. We have been reminded that when tested we can find the same strength, the same good humour and resilience, and the connections to others which have been so important over this past year that enabled earlier generations to rise to the challenges of their time. So I want to express my gratitude to the entire Jewish community, with whom, as you know, I have a great affection and a great connection, for their commitment to our national effort over this past year. I know it was incredibly difficult and trying, but because of our shared efforts, the generations will gather again around the Seder table, and the blessings of older generations will again be given to the young. It's one of the things I love about this time of year. It's this generational transfer of strength, of faith, of community. So I thank the Jewish community for the wonderful contribution that you've always made to our national life here in Australia. And Josh and I wish you and your families a happy and joyful Passover.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
And very well said, because, as Australia is a very, very diverse and multicultural nation. It is wonderful that all celebrations and everything are observed and of course respected as well. And keeping in line with that, in the first report which we looked at was the report about coronavirus and the growing cases in India, and that comes on the back of upcoming Holi, which is tomorrow. So, there will be big crowds, there will be big gatherings. How will they manage that? But right here, our Prime Minister has sent us a Holi message. Let's take a look at that. So there's the message there from the Prime Minister on Holi. We're talking about Holi, as we know, is the Festival of Colours, and the Festival of Colours, and a very vibrant festival, I must say. Of course, we know about how it takes place in India, how big it is in India, but today I look at some of the diaspora countries and see how it has evolved into those countries. So first of all, we will go to Mauritius and take a look at how it is celebrated in Mauritius. Then we'll go to Trinidad. Then we will come back right here as well to have a look. So here's Mauritius.
लंका से आए हनुमान भगवान राम भोला बरसाए सीता के कंगन चुन अयोध्या सीता के कंगन चुन अयोध्या घर को आए जनकपुर में घर को आए जनकपुर में हो जनकपुर
So this is Holi celebration in Mauritius. So that was the celebrations of Holi in Mauritius. You will see a common thread into the countries that we go in the way, the Holi or the Fag or Fagua is, conducted. Well, right now, let's go to a very, very colorful another place, and all of these places I've had a chance of going to and seeing firsthand. So right now, we'd go all the way to the Calypso capital of Trinidad.
While this reporter managed to stay clear from the abuse sprayed from celebrants, some
away
were
from
not
Abil,
as
he's
fortunate,
mentioned.
while others walked right into the path of the spray. It was all fun, all ages taking part in the celebrations. But Pagua is not just about the different colors of Abir.
The old Hindu year is coming to an end. A few days from now, a few weeks from now, we are going to usher in the new Hindu year. So Pagua is the time where we join together in fun and frolic and festivity with colors and powder to bring this old year to an end.
What about the array of colors sprayed on each other?
Colors in itself mean different things. Red means anger, blue means love. So I could go on and on with colors. These colors represent coming together of all different people with different attitudes, mindsets put together. I saw you running just now, but this is not actual paint. We don't play with paint. We play with colors that is created from different elements of the society. Okay.
The celebration brought together persons from various backgrounds, joining the Hindu community to ring in the new year.
Pagua is not just a local thing, it's a national, international thing. All over the world, Pagua is celebrated. Up the Caribbean islands, everywhere. All over Trinidad, we celebrate Holi of Pagua.
Ian Wason, TTT News.
So there we are. That was the celebrations in Trinidad, and as the Panditji there mentioned that Fagua or Fag or Holi is not just a national, it's an international festival these days. Well, talking about it being an international festival, there's so many things, there's so many clips from people from all over the world celebrating Holi. But right now, very close to us here in Australia is Fiji, where the Holi is celebrated with great enthusiasm, and they have a very unique way of singing Holi. But you can see the common thread, the beats and the syllables and the jhaj and everything that's been played. You can find that commonality in between them. But for the Fiji Fag, we will come right here in Brisbane and look at some of our local from the Fiji community, doing the Fag, but Fiji style here in Brisbane. Chief, the main singer is C. Hanuman.
सहित ब्रिज नारी वारे
So that is the very talented singer C. Hanuman right here in Brisbane and the group together. So did you notice the common thread between the, we looked at 4 or 5 countries. So we looked at Mauritius, we looked at Trinidad, we looked at Fiji, or for the Fiji people singing right here in Brisbane. All across the common thread is this method in which Fagua is sung with the jhaj and the syllables and the main dholak and everyone getting together as a mandali. And that is the common theme. And it is good to see that across the world, wherever Hindus are, they have maintained this tradition and culture. So it is very, very good to see that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned before, today we're going to show you how to put on a sari in less than 5 minutes, coming right after this commercial break.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to look at how to put on a sari in less than 5 minutes. Sari is that elegant garment which is of one size fits all. And even if you change sizes as you often do, you don't need to get any extra stitching done or anything like that. You just fit into it. Well, there are many ways and many methods used and many different styles of putting on a sari. But if you are in a rush and you need to get dressed in a sari all by yourself, in 5 minutes, how would you do it? So we're going to show you just that. And in the background, we'll play you a song. And the song is by Payal Pandya together with the Brisbane Babbles Band. That's 1 minute done. Babas Band and David Kumar on the keyboard. Alpesh on the dholak and also the background singer.
जालिम का छोड़ दे मकान छोड़ दे रे दिलो जालिम का छोड़ दे मकान छोड़ दे रे से जालिम का हो से जालिम का हो से जालिम का छोड़ दे मकान छोड़ दे
3 minutes and 42 seconds. So there you are, ladies and gentlemen, within less than 5 minutes, how to put on a sari in a slightly different manner. So there you go. There's no excuse, to the next Indian function that you can't wear a sari. So there you are. Right now, let's go and take a look at some of the functions and events taking place right here in Brisbane. As we know, tomorrow we'll be hosting the Music Junction live from here, and it will be hosted by Pragya, and it is going to be a wonderful show. Live singers coming all the way from Kolkata with live musicians. So that's something to look forward to tomorrow, and it will be wonderful, as I mentioned before. That right now, let's look at the functions and events with the music of Brisbane Barbers with Payal Pandya. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've just been listening to Payal Pandya with Brisbane Barbers Band, and that was a function which we did for Infosys in South Bank way back when we were in full form. But don't forget that tomorrow night we have the Music Junction, and it will be hosted by Pragya Oja Sharma and Arnab and Ani coming live in concert all the way from Kolkata, and it is Same Ghazal. So it is, very nice ghazals of Jagjit Singh ji and Chitra and, many other selected numbers. And it is a show which will be very, very good. So you don't want to miss that. Don't forget that's on tomorrow night. So, ladies and gentlemen, on the weekend edition, that's all we have for you today. I hope you liked the journey around the world for Holi, looking at how Holi is celebrated in many of the countries. And we saw the common thread going through a lot as well. And of course, now you all know how to put on a sari within less than 5 minutes. So at next function, all you ladies, I'd like to see you all there in saris. Well, right now, go enjoy the rest of the weekend that is there, but please be careful and be mindful of those restrictions. As they say, that coronavirus is not gone. It's not gone at all. might be out of sight, but it is not gone. So, we really need to be careful. We need to observe those rules as much as we can. I know as soon as we get to a crowd, to a function and things like that, people just forget everything and they try meeting people and going about their business as they would do as if there was no pandemic or COVID-19 cases at all. But that is natural as well. But please, do take care. And until tomorrow night, we'll see you back at Music Junction. It's been wonderful having your company. It's always so good to see you. Please spread the word around for the Music Junction, and of course share this segment as well for people who would like to know about Holi and also about how to put on a sari in less than 5 minutes. Until tomorrow night, it's goodbye from me.